I'm honored to be able to introduce my colleague, Dr. Norbert Hödebeck-Stuntebeck, as our first speaker on behalf of all members of PPCB. I have known Norbert for more than 20 years, and together with him we started to set up the first office for people with Prader-Willi syndrome in Germany, and this was 25 years ago. During this long time, we have become, I think that's the most important for me, close friends. And I can say Norbert continues to drive the offers and assistance with enormous enthusiasm and commitment. And this enthusiasm is contagious, and Norbert is not only involved here in Germany, but together with many colleagues from all over the world, he is offering services, discussions, and innovation. And since the beginning of PPCB, he has been an engine and a catalyst for the PWS specific care, and especially for their caregivers. And now I think we look forward to his presentation. Norbert, it's your turn.
My idea for the first presentation in this new thing, this caregiver echo, is to think what could be a good thing to start with. Could it be to talk about behavior or other things, special things? But then at the end I thought, no, maybe it could be something what develops over the years, and this is what Hubert said over the last 25 years, to think about what was the situation when we start and what is the situation now, and develop a little bit something like a philosophy or fundamental statements for taking care of people with Prader-Willi. And I would describe these things a little bit to development, but at the end I hope that we can discuss these things, and I hope that you have questions to these basic statements, and also that we can have a view on these basic statements or fundamental attitudes to see if it is possible in all countries. So I hope we can come in a conversation, in a discussion about the things I will tell you. And these fundamental statements, assumptions of philosophy, it's a result of a history, and it's a little bit my own history. So and this history was a history of searching for ideas, searching for answers, and it was also a way of a history of learning and making mistakes. And so what I feel today is that the most helpful things are the mistakes we make when we start. So now we know in which way we can do it and in which way we did it, and it was not always the best way. And it is also a history of finding some solutions or developing best practices, but all of them have to develop in the future more. The start 25 years ago was in the middle of the 19th, and the situation in this time we find when we start, as Hubert said, when we start together, the common understanding of taking care of people with Prader-Willi, if they are living at home or if they live in group homes, were it is necessary to structure the environment for people with Prader-Willi, and it was a must-do. This is what we read in papers. This is what we heard from others. And to structure the environment means to make clear what to do, to have a rhythm of the day and all these things. Another thing we heard or we do is it is necessary to handle all things around nutrition for them, also as a must do. And all people say, you cannot leave them with nutrition. You cannot give them these things. They are not able to do this. This is what we heard when we started. Or another important thing was protect them from disappointments. So because they are not able, they have a mental handicap or something like this, and make the world in this way that they do not have so much disappointments. And at that time, it was a time of, I think, a relative low level of knowledge. What we have at this time. And when we see what we know today, then I think, Hubert, this is what we can say. If we know all these things 25 years ago, I think we make less mistakes. And at the end, the consequence, when we started at this time, the central message at this time was, we as caregivers or parents, we know what is good for people with Prader-Willi, and we make the decisions for people with Prader-Willi. And on a very low level of knowledge. But this is the thing, we decide. And this was the beginning. And over the time, what did we see, or what did we learn, or when we do this, taking care of people in this way? And what we see is by these, I call it dogma of a structured environment. What was the consequence when we do this? We saw that this structured environment decided and developed by others and not by them, by people with PWS, provoked many conflicts. And so one reason is that we often had situations which we could not control fully in all these elements. And sometimes we planned all these things, but then the car which brings the dinner or the lunch is 10 minutes late. And they wait not at 10 minutes after 12, they wait at 12. Or instead of normally 4 cups of coffee, today the machine is broken after the 3rd cup of coffee. And then we offered a cup of chocolate instead. And you can imagine what happens. Or with this closed structure, we learned them to be inflexible and focused on this structure. So if we handle it all the day in the same way, and then there is a change, then they are not able to handle this change. And what we learned, and what they more and more said over the time, that they say, this is what you want, not what I want. And this is your program, this is your way, but it is not mine, and I do not accept these things. And sometimes, or not only sometimes, I think it has situations where we see that they do not understand the structure we gave them. And so if we do not understand what other people want from us, what happens? And the logical consequence of these, I would call it the dogma of this structured environment, is that they are often against this structure, and that conflicts and stress is the normal consequence of this situation. The other thing, this dogma of handling all things around nutrition for people with Prader-Willi, what we see in this way is all things which are forbidden, like you cannot have these, you cannot have that. It makes it very interesting for people. And this is also in our situation often the way. Or they have no chance. So if we do all the things around nutrition, they have no way to learn, or no chance to learn, that food could be a normal part of their life. It is always forbidden, and other people do this. Or they have no chance to see that handling with food could have positive responses, so that it is something good. And they have not the chance to learn that they can control themselves in contact with food. All the people often say they cannot do this, but if we allow them to make these experiences, they can be proud about themselves. And the long-term consequence of this way is that they are, over their whole lifespan, totally dependent from others, and they do not learn to handle nutrition. The other thing, protect them from disappointments. And also some examples here. What we often do not do is to go with them in a supermarket because we expect a conflict. Or we cancel a birthday party from our friends because we expect that things could happen. or in a shop, and I bought my son something and he wants to have another thing. And we often do not say, no, it is not the way. And we often do not confront them with challenging behavior because we expect conflicts. So, and all the things are, the idea behind all these things is to protect them from disappointments, because we think they are handicapped and they should not have these disappointments. But on the other hand, they have no chance to learn and to handle disappointments. And to develop the situation in the future. But yeah, we have to allow them, we have to give them the chance to handle this by themselves. So in this way, they are not so dependent from others in the future. And many of them want to have an independent way of living. That's their goal. And the last thing is to looking back, or what was the situation over the time with this low level of knowledge. I think, Hubert, when we start, there were many things about trial and error. And today we have many information. It develops over the 25 years, the genetic causes, physical symptoms, social, cognitive, emotional things, training programs, and the worldwide network of experts like what we do today. And the result of these, if we develop more and more information, we have the chance to transfer this knowledge to other parts, to all parts of the world. And there, it is not important if we do this in 1 year or reach this goal in 1 year. It could be in 15 years. At the end of this, I think, and this is one of the ideas from today, is to have the same philosophy, to have the same ideas behind this, to transfer this in the world. This is the idea of this, talking about philosophy. So, and when we look in the future or see what we do today and what we can do in the future, I think the fundamental assumptions should be that we reach to the highest knowledge about PWS and using the worldwide networks and we have, and to exchange the knowledge so that at all places in the world, people have the chance to develop in a more independent way. We have to develop training programs for people with PWS. We do some things in different parts of the world, but we have to bring them together, I think, in a better way, in an evaluated way, and also a training program for staff. There are some things, some I know are 1 day, or maybe Hubert, we do things which have 150 hours for training programs. But this is what we have to develop so that they take care on a high quality basis. And what we do not do when we start is to accept the individuality in the way it is necessary. And this is what we see more and more. If we accept and see the individuality, the individual needs of each of the one with Prader-Willi, we have less conflicts than years before. And not to do it in the way that we know what is good for them. In a transparent communication, we have the chance to understand what their meaning is. And I think most of you have the experience that when we are in contact, when we discuss these things with them, they have interesting and competent solutions for many questions. And what we have to allow, what we have to make possible, is that they have experience with successful things, that they are successful in doing things, also with nutrition and all the other things, so that they can be proud about themselves. But on the other hand, we also have to accept that they make failures, that they fall down, that they can stay up, and that they learn to stand up. And not only in one situation, so that they get a more and more generalization competence to stay up when they make mistakes by themselves at the end, without our support. This is the long-term goal. And to include them in finding solutions and developing together with them frameworks. And by this way, I like to make the difference between framework and structure. And when we start, we use this word structure, but this word implements, we know what to do, and we gave them a fixed structure where they have no chance to develop themselves. So develop frameworks where they have chances to discuss things with us, to have to be in charge for things. This is the difference to the things we did 25 years before. But the key thing, I think, what is necessary in the future is we have to support the person with PWS moving from dependent on others, from external control to self-determination, to be self-controlled. And I know that when we are born, there is nearly 100% of external control and support by others. It is not possible in another way. But when we are 25, then I think the way should be that we are not so dependent from others. And on the other hand, the development of self-determination. When we were born, there is no competence of self-determination. But when we are 20, 30, or 25, we should have more and more of these competences. So this is the way it should also be by people with Prader-Willi. But when we have a look at the situation and see the individuality, then maybe we have someone who is 32 years, but have a relative low level of self-control competences. And in the consequence, then in this situation, there must be more control and support from outside, from others. But maybe there's someone with 19, he's in another situation, or someone with 22, younger than the one with 32. Maybe he developed a very high level of self-control, so he needs less control by others. And so to see this individuality, it is necessary to see this and to use this and develop environments and supports around them. But what we do not have to forget is that each person have a minimum and a maximum. So maybe Hubert or me, I'm supported and as a maximum, and I live in an optimal environment, but my maximum is here. And maybe someone else who is not so good supported as me, he have another range of minimum to maximum. And you see, maybe he is in a normal way supported, then he is at that point where I am the person one with a maximum of support. But this one has the chance to learn more because of his genetic basics. So this is what I want to say. We have to think about all these fundamental assumptions I tried to explain, but we also have to see that there are different levels or different maximums. So what we will have in the future is a very differentiated, or a need of a very differentiated offers for people with Prader-Willi. And all these things, the history, the way from 25 years ago to today, and these basic assumptions I described, this is what I like to discuss. And do you think that it is the way we can do it in the future? Or are there things where you say, no, there are limits and things are not possible, it's too optimistic? This is what I like to hear from you now. Thank you for your attention for this short history.